if you're killing yourself in every session, you're not going to last. You need to get better, but you need to get better while having each session make you feel like you want to go do it again.
Nobody really likes to hear this advice because it's not challenging enough. But dude, I think you should just walk. You don't have to annihilate yourself to be really, really good.
I think if you think about your future self while you're training right now, you'll make different decisions. We're not saying don't work hard, but be smart about the work you're doing.
Treat yourself like a professional. And if you want to be able to do it for a long time, you have to figure out ways of staying ahead. I was on a run today and it kind of made me think like, hey, I think this is a cool topic to talk about. As I was running, cruising down the street, a guy said, hey, I used to run like that when I was coming back the other way and doing like my rest interval. First of all, I was thinking, no, you didn't. But, and I just gave him like a thumbs up. Like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, kind of, it makes me think, you know, people say that a lot. I hear it a lot. I think that, you know, seeing people around town and seeing people that are like 25 and in good shape, you see, you know, a volleyball team or you see basketball players or you see various people and you're like, okay, those people are fit. But a lot of times when they're younger, you're just like, well, it's just a fit younger person. Like a lot of people are fit when they're young. Mm-hmm. I think it sticks out a little bit more like a sore thumb, especially when you dye your hair white and black and you're in shape.
J. Jonah Jameson or Omni-Man.
And you're older. So people ask me a lot of questions. They're like, what do you do? How do you get in shape? And all these things. And they're usually like close to my age or they're usually like in their 40s.
Yeah.
And they'll always tell me, oh, I used to do this. I used to do that. I'm always like, man, why do they used to do that? Like, I understand maybe they used to have like a prime and they used to lift a certain amount of weight or do something really efficiently, but now it seems like they're not doing anything. So that's disheartening to me. And it's like, man, maybe we don't have to like say that. Maybe we don't have to say I used to, because I don't have to, I could say like I used to bench more weight, but I wouldn't say I used to bench. I still bench.
Yeah.
I still lift. I'm still in the game. I'm still doing some of the stuff.
You love the game, bro.
That's right.
I think that's that's one thing that can be kind of difficult, you know, because I played soccer since I was 6, got cut from college when I was 21. And when I got cut, bro, like because of my foot surgery, first I stopped watching soccer. I stopped really playing soccer. And it's because like knowing what my body was able to do with it and then not being able to do that, it really just kind of pissed me off. And in my mind, I'm like, if I'm not going to be able to be high level at this, if I don't have the ability to try to take this to another level, why am I even going to do it anymore? And that was a really, really, really big mistake. And I realized that these days, and I'm playing more soccer, I'm going to touch the ball and building those skills, but I'm doing it from a place of like enjoyment rather than a place of I got to do this so I can try to reach the highest level. I'm taking the pressure off the practice, and because of that, it's just a really, really fun thing to do. And it's the same thing because when you see people, because I know people who are like, I used to bench that much, or I used to deadlift, or I used to do that, and they don't do any of that stuff anymore. You know, I think sometimes you just put too much pressure on these practices. And if we can remove the pressure and learn to enjoy it and have it be like play, I think it's going to be much easier to maintain this for the rest of your life so that you can keep running at 60, 70, 80, 90, you know?
I went to this place called Roostaller on Saturday, and they have pizza and beer, and you've been there before. Mm-hmm. Really cool atmosphere, cool place. But I went to get in line, and this guy was like, he's like, what do you do? And I told him, I run, I lift, I've been doing this for a long time. And he's like, man, he goes, I'm 43. And he's like, I think it's too late. And I was like, but I just told you I'm older than you, I'm going to be 50. And he goes, yeah, but you're already in good shape. He's like, I got fat. He's like, I got out of shape. And he was saying that he used to do jujitsu, and then he got into MMA, and he got into it. Like, he really, really enjoyed it. He loved it. He was sparring, and he goes, sometimes the young guys would come in. He's like, every once in a while I'd tag one of those guys pretty good, Mm-hmm. He's like, I was just on top of my game. He goes, I go home, and my wife would say, how'd it go? I said, I beat some ass today. I was able to hang. He's like, I was real proud of myself. And then he ran into injuries. And kind of like one thing led to another. And then he left for a little while. Then he went to come back. And when he came back, he's just getting killed by everybody. Yeah. Every new person, every, white belt, blue belt, doesn't matter what belt, he's getting slaughtered, mainly because he just was out of condition. Mm-hmm. He's out of shape. So he could kind of do some stuff, but he would get gassed out real easy.
Yeah.
And what I was telling him is like, nobody really likes to hear this advice because it's not challenging enough. It's not hard enough. But dude, I think you should just walk. He's like, walking? He's like, really? I said, dude, if you make a decision to start to walk every day tomorrow, not some crazy amount of mileage or anything, but if you just make a decision to start walking tomorrow and you do so for the next 5-10 years, I'm like, you're going to start to get rid of some of that weight. You're going to be in a better place and it doesn't hurt at all. And you develop this habit. So it's not like it's going to like strip weight off of you, but over a long period of time, it's going to help you to be healthier. And again, it's something that all it costs you is some time. But I do think that most people can slip in a couple 10-minute walks throughout the day here and there. So, it's funny because I try to give that advice to people because to me, that's the way you get back into the game. That's the way that you don't have to say, I used to do this or used to do that.
Dude, I think one thing that I'm curious to see what you say about this, but when it comes to building your consistency, because there are people who are still doing all these things, and then there are people who they stop at a certain time. I don't want to tell people that you shouldn't compete or you shouldn't go hard at it, but it's one of those things where I feel like you have to find a happy medium from being competitive and trying to be really, really good to having fun. When it comes to your lifting, when it comes to your physical activity, because again, it's like when I think about jiu-jitsu, yes, I want to continue improving because I want to be able to roll with some of the best people on the planet. I want to be able to hold my own. I want to be able to beat them. But I also want to be doing this enjoyably when I'm 60, 70, 80, 90. So there has to be like I need to be able to do this in a way that I still love going to practice every single time I go to practice. And I think that can be really difficult for people to find the balance, because people, I think what ends up happening is whatever it is, whether it's your lifting or whatever, when it becomes too competitive, sometimes it makes people want to just stop doing it altogether. Like that guy you were just talking about, that's the prime example.
He started to feel bad about it. He started to feel bad about something he used to feel great about.
Exactly. And then also I think that the other thing though too is like the injuries. It's one of the things when you look at lifting, why do people get injured a lot of times when it comes to certain aspects of lifting? You might be pushing too much weight. You might be doing too much here, right? And every time you go back, you keep tweaking stuff and then you just stop doing it altogether. So how can we do it in a way that we can just not get injured, enjoy it, get what we need to get out of it, and do it for a long time?
I think there's so many messages that we've shared on this show, and of course, I'm going to think the stuff we shared on the show is amazing and great. But I really think it would help people if you can follow along with some of what we've been talking about. We've been talking for a while about the importance of nasal breathing. We've been talking for quite a bit about the importance of sleep, and other people talk about it. There's other influencers and other people and other podcasts that talk about these very same things. It's not like we made them up. But if you were to, and I'm not proposing that, because there was a great clip recently from, what is his name?
Tom Brady.
Milos Serkev.
Oh,
Milos Serkev had a great clip recently where he talked about how he sees all these people lifting and not making any faces and not grunting at all. It was legendary.
Trying hard enough, man.
However, if you do lift in a calm way, okay, maybe you're going to ensure that your results might take longer because maybe your intensity is a little lower, or maybe you have developed a pain tolerance or whatever the case may be. If you can lift calmer and you did most of your lifting just nasal breathing, I would say, man, that's going to, in my opinion, it's going to lower the risk of injury. You're breathing and you're not holding your breath. You're not bracing because you're not even trying to lift so much weight that you need to brace or grunt or go crazy.
Yeah.
Some people might be like, I'm out. I don't want to do that because it's not challenging enough. But could you still get your muscles to exhaustion through breathing in and out of your nose? Sure, you could. It might take a little practice. It might be a little annoying. It might take, a little bit of time to sort of figure out. But that's one way to just put a governor on something. And maybe you don't lift that way all the time, right? But maybe you don't crank the music. Maybe you don't crank the Metallica, or maybe you don't crank the fast-paced whatever music that you really like. And maybe you don't take the pre-workout, because all these things, they kind of put you into this mode of, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to get after it. And you're going to kind of almost like redline. And you could be, kind of thrusting your heart rate up in the 170s, up in the 180s without even really recognizing it, just from doing like leg extensions really intensely. Again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like if you're after that hypertrophy and you're after some of those gains, maybe some of that is good. But something to think about is you're putting so much energy out that has a biological tax at some point that needs to be paid. And you're either going to pay it within the next couple of weeks, or you're going to pay it in the next couple of years. And it'll probably be paid like in the next couple of years when you're, when you're going around slightly injured and maybe not motivated as much as you used to be.
Mm-hmm. It's what you're mentioning there, I think, if we even think of a broader context, and this can be with all of your physical activities. I've mentioned that when I go into jiu-jitsu, the thing that I keep at the top of my head, and the reason why I do this is I always keep in my mind, like, I want to be able to find the best leverage for anything I'm doing, right? So the mantra in my mind is find leverage, find leverage, find leverage. And the reason that's my mantra with jiu-jitsu is because in jiu-jitsu and in all martial arts, if you're able to find leverage with the movement that you're doing, finding the best leverage, inherently the movement, the takedown, the sweep, the submission is easier. Because instead of trying to use as much muscular effort to pull this arm on the arm bar, if you can get your hips in the right position, your elbows in the right position, your body in the right position, and your whole body moves it, it's so much easier. It takes so much less effort. It's so much easier. Finding leverage allows you to find ease. And if we can take that concept into our cardio workouts, our movement, whether you want to go out and play some basketball or whatever, baseball, or go back and do some MMA and jiu-jitsu, if you can have the idea of like, I want to try to find ease within this somewhat difficult thing, you're gonna force yourself to try to do it in a way that doesn't feel like it's destroying your body. Even we think about running, and I know that this can be so opposite to kind of like, I love David Goggins, but I think he's the opposite of this. That man was so he had so much grit that he was able to run through 2 busted knees. He had sores and stuff in his feet that were bleeding, and he kept running. And that's motivating. But that is also just, I get it can be good to have grit, but that is just pushing through difficulty because you want to push through difficulty. And I'm not saying this isn't bad, but I feel like the thing to be able to do these things for a long time efficiently is trying to find, just like you mentioned, nasal breathing. It's going to keep your heart rate lower. It's going to put a governor on your output. It's going to allow you to probably do this thing again tomorrow because, again, doesn't mean you won't make progress, but there is a governor on your intensity. So we can do this thing longer. We can continue to make progress, and we can probably stave off potential injuries that would happen because our intensity is so damn high.
There's a safe feature of bodybuilding, and it's your rest interval.
Yeah.
If I was training with you and you're like, all right, let's both compete or something, and let's, do a contest.
Ranch Warren it, huh?
8 months from now, right? Then we'd probably lift at a different pace than normal. Like the pace would probably be faster. The weights probably wouldn't be all that crazy, especially in the beginning. But you might say like, let's have, I go, you go type thing. And and then when you do stuff like that, I don't know how many of you have done things like that before, but you do maybe about 4 sets of 10. It's like, well, maybe normally you can handle like 120-pound dumbbells on like a dumbbell bench or something. Well, now maybe you're only able to use the 80s because you're going back and forth so much. So you just kind of created a leverage for yourself. And someone might think oh man, that sucks. You can't use the 120s. Yeah, it does suck. For that particular day, you can't use the 120s, but maybe you set it up on some other days where you can kind of have at it and hit those 120s, but then also think about, okay, last time I did this, I did 4 sets. I did them this way. I did this with this short rest interval. Today I want to handle the 120, so I'm only going to do 1 set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you try to figure out, because every day is a new day. Every day is a new opportunity to do something different. And when you start to blend disciplines, you start to blend things together. Sometimes things can go crazy. Sometimes things can go haywire. But I've found so far that it's a huge advantage. It's another leverage to be able to cross train, just to have the ability to cross train, have the ability to, oh, now I can, if I want, I can go on a Stairmaster. If I want, I could. It's not like I couldn't before, but I just didn't have a decent skill set with cardio to really make it all that valuable. It'd just be like, maybe like labor intensive, or just didn't want to do it because I wasn't good at it, right? Like you start to get decent at stuff, and it's a little easier to do it. But I could be beat up from a lift, and then I could go and do the bike. I could be beat up from sprints, and I could say, you know what? I think my feet and ankles and stuff, I think they've taken too much of a beating, and I can figure out a different style of workout for the day.
You know, I'm curious about this, man, because you have had a long history of powerlifting and lifting and doing things despite what your body is telling you. And, you know, with what we're saying right here, you know, it's not like I don't want people to think that we're saying you should never push yourself. I still have training sessions, and I still have sometimes jujitsu sessions where it's like you get done, you're like, oh, all right, I'm going to chill tomorrow. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not saying you never do that, but it's about finding the balance between that. And honestly, having most of your sessions be kind of like in the green zone. There's a really good
Orange Theory. There's the gym Orange Theory.
Tell me.
You wear a heart rate monitor actually on your arm.
Yeah.
And they keep you in the orange zone. They have orange, green, red. They have like different zones. That's the whole. Actually, you should do a session. You'd actually really like it a lot.
Okay. Check it out.
It's kind of cool because you can go as nuts as you want. I think for you might go kind of like casual, like workout number 1, because you don't really know what's all involved.
Yeah.
But I could picture you like getting after it in there though.
Dude, they have bikes in there, right? Is that the essence of their...
Some Orange Theories have bikes probably, but the ones I've been to have a treadmill, has a rower, and it has weights. And anyway, the whole point of the whole thing, because everybody in there is in the red. That's the funny part. The person on the treadmill next to you, they're in the red. They're going crazy.
Okay.
And my wife and I have been to some of these classes before. We do them together sometimes. And we're both walking on the treadmill, and then people always look at us because we're in good shape. So they're always like, they're always like, what are you doing? But yeah, we tend to try to listen to what they promote, and that's to try to be in this, 70 to maybe 80% heart rate zone rather than redlining the whole workout.
There's a TED Talk by Steven Saylor. Steven Saylor he's done a bunch of research on this. He's worked with some of the best Olympians in the world when it comes to conditioning. Some of the
definitely heard the name before.
Yeah. He when he looks at breathing, for example, he thinks about it in terms of like your ventilatory zones rather than zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. It's based off of ventilation, right? And he's been able to show that vast majority of elite athletes do most of their conditioning work and most of their training is in what he calls the green zone, which by most people's standards would feel easy, right? Lower ventilation, lower heart rate, long period of time. And that it's the last 15 to maybe 20% of their work that is in that red zone. Minimal amounts of their work are in the middle.
Now we're kind of talking about Joel Jameson type stuff with the Morpheus app and how he has it worked out to where, you're only doing smaller amounts of those like really hard anaerobic activities, right? Depending on the athlete, depending on your goals.
Red zone workouts, right? But with those elite athletes, it's none of the stuff is in between, which Saylor calls the black hole. It's like where you're going kind of hard.
I like that.
Yeah. You should watch a TED Talk, man. It's 15 minutes, but it's great. But it really gets you thinking, like, what elite athletes do most of their training in this green zone, in this zone that's easy, right? And we've had multiple athletes that have come onto this show, like the top high rocks woman that came, and she has a very good aerobic capacity, and we talked to her about it, and she's like, majority of my sessions are in that, lower, in that aerobic easy zone, right? And most people, though, they don't feel like they're getting a workout if the workout isn't kind of like if it doesn't feel uncomfortable. They don't feel like they got a real workout, and they don't want to go into the gym or into jujitsu or into any of these things and leave feeling like they didn't almost kill themselves. That doesn't feel like a workout. But when you think about building that, first that broad aerobic base, but also being able to build efficiency in what you're doing, you got to think, if you're going to be doing this for a long time, then if you're killing yourself in every session, you're not going to last. You need to get better, but you need to get better while having each session make you feel like you want to go do it again. You know what I mean? So you guys should check out that TED Talk. We'll probably link it down here, but it's it can really help you understand. And I mentioned this to people over the Stronger Human. Try to have a lot of your sessions, have a good session, feel good, but be in that green zone. And maybe once a week, maybe twice a week, do something that's going to put you in the red zone. But that should not be a majority of your work.
I like what you said about wanting to do the workout again. The best workouts that I've ever had, I get done and I do not want to be done. It's the last thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And you must have had this happen a million times at jiu-jitsu, where you just sit on the mats and you just like looking at everybody and you're just like, I just want to keep going.
Yeah.
I want to keep going. But you're like, it's Wednesday. I'm supposed to go home and eat, get ready to recover on Thursday and be back in here on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
And Friday, I know these other guys are coming in that are really good. And so I'm going to get more working on Friday. So you got to keep telling yourself, but there's that side of you where like, this feels so good. I want to just like live in this spot right now. This feels awesome.
Yeah.
And you have to shut it down. And I had to do that yesterday, doing some treadmill work. I was like, this feels great. And then I kind of said to myself, you know what? I'm not going to be the person that's not that good at something that wants it so bad that I just keep hammering myself, making myself worse. I saw a lot of that in powerlifting, and it was easier for me to see it in powerlifting because I did it for so long and I became proficient at it. And I'd be like, why is this guy doing this? Like, I just need him to take a day off, but they wanted it so bad, which is totally understandable. When you're talking about this ventilation and this kind of green zone, you're also talking about something above just walking, right? Like it's definitely a more intense. I don't want to bash walking because I think walking is so awesome, and I think it's a great base.
Oh, and I want to.
But we need to do stuff just a little bit beyond walking if we're trying to push our cardiovascular system.
Yeah. And the thing is like, what you mentioned about walking, I think is still something that shouldn't be understated. I saw you posted a video about disagreeing with Rhonda Patrick about her 10K steps. And I heard her talk about like the not thinking about 10,000 steps anymore. I don't know the context of what she was mentioning, but like that, just having a goal for getting a certain amount of walking in each day, I think is extremely important for everybody. Athlete, or if you're someone who doesn't play a sport, it's essential.
Rhonda Patrick did have a good kind of shtick. Instead of the 10,000 steps, she was like, I'd love to see people work hard for 10 minutes. And I like that, but walking is too easy. It's too simple. I would love people to train 10 minutes a day.
VO2 max phase, bro.
Yeah.
I think like she's like just discovering the VO2 max and is like,
and she's
super hard on
having so much fun with it that she's got to share it with everybody else, right?
Yeah, because I even heard her. I think I heard her on a little bit on another show, talking about how like she was giving advice on cardiovascular work, and then saying, I think it was Chris Williamson saying, yeah, you could do these workouts maybe 3 times a week. And I'm like, excuse me? German 4x4 3 times? Excuse me? Do you know the amount of fatigue physically that this causes the system? Or Norwegian 4x4s, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's like VO2 is really important and really beneficial, but it's like there's a swing right now to like, let's do the most intense cardio and build our VO2 max, where people are missing building the base, building a high level of efficiency with your cardiovascular system so that you have more access to your highest VO2 max.
It's so hard to share some of this stuff because, you know, someone like Kai Green's like, I don't lift heavy. I'm not, what does he say? I'm not a lifter, right? I'm not a lifter.
I think he says I'm not a power lifter.
Yeah, I'm not a power lifter. A weightlifter. Yeah, he says weightlifter. He's got a good New York accent. And he says it repeatedly. And then you're like, I think I've seen you do 405 on the incline for like reps, like slow, like, and he's so strong. And then you're like, well, what is he talking about? But it's relative though.
Yeah.
He's obviously recovering from those workouts. It's obviously not that hard for him. I think Jay Cutler did a great job finding a sweet spot. I think when Jay Cutler was young, I think he got into a mode where he was like, saw what Ronnie was doing. He kind of got caught up in that for a minute.
Yeah.
I think he got hurt a couple times and was like, nope, I need to kind of stay in my own lane. And he kind of found weights that were good for him, but still the intensity that we see from these guys is like through the roof a lot of times. But again, we're seeing their highlights. You're seeing our highlights. You're seeing like what we do. And we're not going to necessarily show you guys like us on an hour-long walk. You know what I mean? Or maybe just like a hike or something. We might share some of it with you that we do it, but it's boring, right? And it's kind of slow. But there's so much that you can get out of some of these activities. And I think something that I'm picking up more recently is I think that you can do like lower reps and do stuff in succession with other things and get yourself into some really great cardiovascular shape.
Oh, hell yeah.
Something like, and you could pick how challenging you want it to be, you know, like, if somebody wants a hell of a challenge, they could have like a 200-pound sandbag and they can do some sprints in between or something like that on an Airdyne bike, which is, what we did when we had, one of the guests here, in the past. We've done stuff like that before and it just annihilates you, but you can also just get like a 50-pound med ball. And if 50 pounds sounds like a lot for you, grab a 30-pound med ball or 20-pound med ball. Do 3 reps on one side, do 3 reps on the other side, and go back to the bike and then see if you can get 200 watts. Hold 200 watts for 30 seconds, hop off of it, maybe do some thrusters or something like that, grab the ball again and start over. It's like, you'll get such a sick workout from that. It'll be unbelievable. And your recovery from it, again, if it's appropriate for you, if these numbers are hard for you, then it's going to be hard to recover from. But if they feel kind of on the easier side, don't worry about it because you can do round after round after round. And there's another thing that you can do. If some of the numbers I just said are too light, you can use a little bit more weight. You could have the intensity of the watts on the bike be a little higher. But you can also do like 3 or 4 rounds in a row with very little to no rest. And then you could rest 3 minutes or 4 minutes and then do 3 or 4 more rounds. This stuff is like, you know, I know this is, people are like, oh, you could have discovered CrossFit or you discovered some high rocks training. And yeah, those guys did a great job of bringing some of this stuff to the masses, but you'll find some really amazing gems in there. And I think it's a different way of working out that maybe some of the normal bodybuilder gym bros haven't really tapped into yet.
Yeah. You know, when it comes to that, this is also why it's dope that more and more people are starting to like do things within their own living space, like getting an assault bike or getting some med balls, getting a few pieces of equipment so you can do these things at your spot, because it allows you, I guess, a bit more freedom in terms of what you do, right? Because going from a bike to a med ball, to something else, that might be difficult to do at your gym or your box gym, but you might just be able to do that at your spot, right? But with what you were just talking about right there, something to think about too is going back to the nasal breathing that you were talking about earlier. Now, when you're doing something like that, some people will have the tendency of like going till they're breathing hard and heavy. But if you keep nasal ventilation, again, it's going to put a governor on the outputs that you have on the bike, the outputs that you have with the sandbag. Because again, if you keep at the top of your mind, I'm going to try to find a level of ease with what I'm doing. I'm not saying that you never should let your mouth open. And if your mouth opens, that's fine.
And maybe you need to give the bag a little hiya, right?
Right. Absolutely. But this will allow you what's happened for me and what's happened for you and what happens for a lot of people is that your your output at whatever it is that you're doing is going to be able to increase while your ventilation stays calm and while your heart rate stays lower than it typically would be. And because of this, because of the calmer ventilation, because it doesn't actually, you don't perceive it as being as stressful, and your body doesn't also perceive it as being as stressful. Tomorrow, when you get ready to do something else again, your body will feel good enough to do it, right? The next day, you'll feel good to do it, and you'll continue to increase your efficiency at doing whatever workout it is you're choosing to do, versus every single workout kind of redlining it or being in this kind of middle zone where you're working kind of hard, but not, and then the next day you feel fried. You know what I mean? A lot of my workouts have continued to like just push the boundary of my green zone. And I have like a red zone workout once a week or so, but my efficiency and my heart rate and my power output has continued to increase in all these modalities without me having to redline. So it's one of those things of like, again, finding leverage, finding a level of ease. And this is one of the things I've been doing jiu-jitsu, it'll be 11 years now. And I'm not feeling my body, my hands, everything feels good. I don't have pain anywhere. This is just a sign to me that I can do this thing where I'm fighting people multiple times a week, training, and I can do this for a long time because my body doesn't have the wear and tear that most other people's bodies would have doing this type of activity.
And how do we get back to doing these things? You know, I think we're mentioning some of it right now. I think, one thing that got maybe swept under the rug with strength and conditioning is actual conditioning.
Yeah.
And maybe not for the universities and the football players and soccer players and so on, but like the people that were into strength and conditioning workouts, they just kind of, the conditioning side just sort of like fell off. Maybe they drag a sled here and there, do something a little bit, but not enough work to really make a change. But it's as simple as this. If you work on getting yourself fit, and you may want to have a definition of that. I mean, it's been my experience. I feel amazing. I feel so good. I don't want to necessarily say like I feel better than I ever have or whatever, because I don't want to like overhype it and stuff. But I feel very capable every day. I feel very capable of doing whatever's on the schedule for me to do, workout wise, whatever I need to do, whether it's single leg hops or bounding or sprinting. And maybe some people are like, well, you're not that good at it. That's okay too. I'm working on it. I'm working at it. The fact that I can do it makes me feel amazing. The fact that I can go out and I can, sprint forward, sprint backwards. I can jump on the boxes. I can jump down off of boxes. And I'm seeing results, and I feel like, I'm progressing. I feel like I'm getting better. I feel like I'm a little bit springier. I am lighter, but I also feel lighter as well. Mm-hmm. And so how does some of these people that are listening, for people that say they used to do this or they used to do that, how do you get yourself headed back in that direction? And maybe even should you get yourself headed back in that direction? Sometimes some people might say, oh, well, you don't lift as much as you used to. I would be lying if I said, well, I don't want to. Of course, I would. That would be great to hold on to that strength. That would be cool. But it's not really not part of the goals as much anymore. It's not part of the plan. I don't have any input. I have no input to produce that amount of force anymore. And I'm moving on to like other things. So I don't have over the last 6 months, lifts in the 500 range on squats over and over and over and over again, like I did when I was competing. I had lift after lift of, bands and chains with 500 pounds or good mornings and deadlifts and all these movements and all these exercises going on for, I don't know how long. And those inputs, they're no longer there anymore. I don't train that way anymore. And should I even bother to pursue it? Well, strength is never a weakness, right? And weakness is never strength. So yeah, I should pursue some of it. Why not bring some of it back a little bit? But also let's be cautious that we don't, because I like that shit, right? I like that stuff a lot. Let's not get tangled up with it. Let's not wrestle with it. Let's not spend 45 minutes or an hour on the bench, because that's like, that's costly in terms of how much time it takes.
Yeah. And
then also we know that I need to be able to move my shoulders better to be able to run better, right?
Yeah.
And so then I'll just kind of be addicted and stuck in the same wheel of things that I should be. So for some of you out there listening, you know, can you still do what you used to do? But also, should you still do what you used to do? Or should you be maybe looking in a slightly different direction?
Yeah. You know, Mark, I was thinking, it's funny you mentioned strength is never a weakness again, because I think I saw a post from Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, and she was using your phrase, strength is never weakness. And I was walking and I was thinking about it. I was like, what would be a situation where strength would be a weakness? And I thought of like conceptually where strength would be a weakness. And it's to the person that's listening, where they're very physically strong, or whatever it is they do, but that strength stops them from doing some type of modality or practice or something that would bring them a level of, you know, competency in another, let's say, movement pattern or another ability. But because they're so strong, it stops them from even being open to doing X, Y, or Z. And I see that a lot from people. A lot of people are not willing to do certain types of, aren't willing to try rope flow, or aren't willing to do some type of mobility work. You see a lot of people, they look at a guy like Ido Portal and some of the things that they talk about. And because he doesn't deadlift or squat a certain amount, it's like,
oh, bullshit.
Touch button the park.
Oh, that dude's strong, by the way.
He's very strong.
So don't underestimate how strong he is.
People don't realize how strong he is. But that's the thing. A lot of times, your strength can literally get in the way of you making progress, because it makes you have so much hubris and pride that you aren't open to trying other things because you're so physically strong or so competent in what you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, years ago, you know, because I started saying this, you know, I did like a deeper dive into it.
Yeah.
And I looked into it a lot, and I found all kinds of stuff on like monks and all kinds of different things, and talking about like weakness, and weakness being associated sometimes with openness, because sometimes when you're weak,
we're very weak.
Yeah,
we are very weak. Anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I'm weak in my and I'm wide open. No, sometimes weakness. Sometimes people don't want help. You know, like I start jujitsu or something, and I don't even talk to you about it. Like for whatever reason, I'm trying to keep it like more to myself. I don't have the. I guess you could look at it as a strength for me to just go to you and say, Nsima, I'd love to get help with this. I know you've been doing it for years. I might as well just, you know, chat with you about it, right? But in some cases, when I was looking into some of this, it was like weakness was the willingness to get help. It was the willingness to say, I'm not actually that good at this. Could you mind helping me with this? Or, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Asking people for their power, almost asking people for their, oh, I know that you're kind of strong in this area. I'd like to get your perspective, your strength on this, because I could use the help. So yeah, I did look into it a bunch, and it was really interesting. But where I would say strength can be a problem is yes, like if it's the only thing you're working on, and also if it's not even so much the only thing you're working on. If you're only working on one aspect of strength, that's where we get killed, right? That's the hard part, because I would say that like so many things are strength. Like what the proficiency of David Goggins, like I would say he's a strong, like I would use that word. I'd say he's a strong runner. You know, he's a really strong runner. Or I worked out with Cam Haynes, and I don't know if you have any footage of that, Ryan, but like Cam Haynes like totally killed me on everything, even bench pressing, because like we just did like 9 gazillion reps. Oh, and strength is, you know, with this pulling this bow and arrow. Yeah. I had no idea how to pull that damn thing, and he pulls it all day long. And at the time, I'm 240. He's probably 170 or something. I don't know, 180. I mean, this guy, there's a lot of this was a rough. I need to get a redo on this thing. This was a rough go.
What year was this? Like you 240? How long ago was this?
It might have been 240 or 250. Dude, he ran up the hill the way that you would expect someone to run up a hill if you were like filming them run 200 meters up a hill. Yeah. you know, and then then the person would stop and they would like, you know, rest and they'd like run it again for Instagram or something. But he ran up the whole thing that way. He just like ran. He just floored it.
Yeah.
A shout out to Casey Short too, who came with me on that trip and actually ran up the whole hill too, because he's a beast.
Yeah, Casey is a beast.
And a fellow hunter as well. And anyway, man, there's so many different types of strength, and you need to have rotational strength for some stuff that you might do with like a bow.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you only focus in and hone in on one type of strength, I guess that's where it can start to become a weakness. But how do you think, like, you know, I know Cam Haynes is the extreme. I know Goggins. I know some of these people are extreme, but like, how do we get more people to be able to handle some of this stuff in their old age? And maybe they don't train with the same intensity as these guys. We don't train as much as these guys. What are some of your, like, what do you think some key elements are for people just to be able to still train?
You know, I think back, there's one big thing. The first big thing is having a level of enjoyment in terms of what you do. So you need to figure out a way to, whatever your plan is, like have a way to have things in it where you look forward to doing this.
I don't understand why more people don't know about certified Piedmontese beef. The steak, some of the cuts are just as lean as chicken breast. To me, it's amazing.
It's pretty crazy because, like, you know, don't get me wrong, go to Costco, go wherever, get your meat. But there can be a lot of fat in certain cuts of beef, which is why some people don't. They aim towards eating chicken breast and chicken thighs, but they have certain cuts that have like the same amount of fat that you would have in a chicken thigh, but it has all of the nutrient content that you get from red meat. Freaking iron, vitamin B, all these other things that chicken just doesn't have.
Grass-fed, grass-finished, regenerative agriculture, kind of the only way to go. And a lot of the meat that we see at the stores and stuff, sometimes it says it's grass-fed and sometimes it's not grass-finished and so on. But I've actually been out there and seen what they have going on at Piedmontese out there in Omaha, Nebraska, and it's pretty impressive operation they got going on over there.
So if you head to Piedmontese.com and use code POWER at checkout, you're going to get 4 pounds of grass-fed beef with your order at checkout. I look forward after this show to going home and doing some kicks, doing some flow, doing some sandbag work. I'm really looking forward to that because it's really fun for me, right? But that's the thing. You have to make it fun. And then the second thing is I do think that having a mix of modalities within your practice is something that's going to allow you to do it for a long, or make it more enjoyable and allow you to do it for a long time. Because I mean, you see guys who are like, you know, upper lower push pull. It's like every day it's like these lifts, right? Because maybe the prime goal is muscle and strength, and I get that. But I think a cool concept to think about is Greg Souders came in. We were just talking about Greg. He teaches at Standard Jiu-Jitsu. You know, he brought a lot of the constraint-led approach to Jiu-Jitsu, and I'm not saying that this is the approach, but there's something that happens when people do games with the constraint-led approach in grappling. When you have those constraints in those games, what ends up happening is people end up doing different types of movement that they wouldn't have come across to get to, let's say, the arm bar, get to a pass or whatever, because they're not drilling the same type of movement. And the byproduct of this is less overall like fatigue on certain areas because they're figuring out different answers to a movement problem. So they do more aspects of movement to get there. So a lot of these athletes don't tend to have the same amount of soreness in their knees and back, etc., because they're getting more aspects of movement than they would be if they were just drilling consistent movements. I'm not saying that drilling is bad, but it brings me to this idea of when you have broad movement abilities, it will allow you to become more physically robust over time, but also each session that you do isn't just going to drill down on one part of your body that might be getting excessive amounts of stress. Because when you think about it, when somebody is doing certain types of training, like we both know at least I really know what it was like to have back pain when I was doing strength training in the past, because I was doing a lot of the same movement patterns over time. And there were a lot of movement patterns. I wasn't getting a lot of rotation. I wasn't getting single leg work. I wasn't getting hopping, right? I wasn't getting, it wasn't doing anything backwards. There were just all of these things that I wasn't doing, and I was drilling in the sagittal plane and force production in these same vectors. So I was having consistent pain in the same areas. Now I'm still strong. I'm still making progress. I have no physical pain. I'm still doing jujitsu, but I have a more broad movement practice that's allowing me to develop way more capacities. And the fatigue is being spread throughout more of my structure than going to specific areas, right? So I think figuring out a way to have a broader practice, whether you're playing basketball or playing a sport, and then you have other things that you do for your fitness, that's going to help you to develop more capacities while not, especially if you don't want to be the type of person who I used to do this, not having specific pain. Like I even think about it with people who run. A lot of runners have chronic pain in certain areas.
I think it's like 80%. I think that's like a real stat. It's like 80% of runners are injured.
And I want to, what is your theory? Like, let's just even think about the way most people who run, like it's the same road. It's the same, the same type of, the same way you're doing it.
Man, there's
every single day.
There's so much that goes into it.
Yeah.
Because there's such a broad variety of people that run.
Mm-hmm.
But the littlest things shoes, like, right off the bat, people, you got to find appropriate footwear for yourself and for the conditions that you have every day. And you don't necessarily just want to stuff your foot into some giant cushion all the time. Sometimes it might be appropriate. So there's a lot of stuff with stuff like that. There's also just the simple thing of like, if you were to test a runner, if you're a trainer and you're like, all right, I don't know a ton about running, but I'll give you some evaluations and I'll think this through a little bit. You go home, you think it through, you talk with ChatGPT a little bit, and you come back and you say, all right, I'm going to, have you do an evaluation because you said you wanted to run 10 miles and here's a couple things that are needed to be able to run 10 miles. Obviously need to be conditioned running 10 miles, right? But how about something so simple as just jumping up and down on one foot? You ask the person to jump up and down on one foot and they do it for 30 seconds and their leg's completely on fire. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, well, wait a second, and then you test a couple other things. You just test them doing some lunges. And you're thinking, well, they're going to be on one leg a lot, they're for this running stuff, and they got to have some strength here. Take them through a couple other tests and just find out they're just not that proficient. They're not doing great, right? So then you're going to have to set up an entire program that allows them to circumvent the possibility of getting hurt via like bringing up some of these capacities. And I don't think people they don't even think about it at all. Mm-hmm. It's just not even, it's like I heard about running, I got fired up and I just started running, that's awesome. That's really cool. But it would be great if playing in the background was a little bit of you working on some of these other things, doing TKEs, for the knee, as my knee just totally popped when I did that. Do a TKE, just whatever exercises, right? These smaller exercises.
And look up terminal knee extension if you want to know what he was mentioning right there.
I think that the main reason why people are hurt is because they continually do things when they're hurt.
Yeah, that too.
And so it's the fastest way to end up in this category of I used to do that. I could have just completely wrecked myself forever with some of the lifting that I was doing. But I stopped. Again, I think I've told the story before, but I retired from the sport because I was lifting a weight that was like, I don't know, I was getting in like 80% range and I was doing sets of 4 with it. And I just
benching or something else.
Yeah. Benching.
Yeah.
And it just sucked. It was like, these suck. These reps suck. They're not nothing compared to what I should be able to normally do with this percentage of weight. Mm-hmm. And it was a pretty good amount of weight. It was like 475 and I was doing a couple sets of 4 reps and they were paused and stuff. And they look, if you watched it on camera, you're like, oh, it looks great.
Yeah.
But my elbow was totally killing me. And I'm like, if my elbow hurts with 475, I want to bench 600. These are not, they're not even remotely close to each other, So I didn't necessarily have to retire, but I just had enough in general, and I felt like I did enough, had enough. And so it was time for me to move away from it. But I think most people, they don't take these signals as like hints. And the reason I actually retired too was also like, I went to the doctor, I had the elbow checked out.
Yeah.
They wanted to do a surgery and they were like, the surgery was iffy. They were like, it'd be 50-50 on what. So I'm like, I'm not going to have a surgery. I don't think it's necessary for me to live out an awesome life. And I don't want to be like disabled.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just stop, you know? So I just, and I don't know, some people might think, oh, that's kind of sad or that stinks. Or it's like, no, it doesn't. Like powerlifting was great.
Mm-hmm.
I had so much fun with it. I was lucky and felt great to be able to do it that long. But there are messages in your body has. I have some friends, you know, they have like an Achilles thing going or a knee thing or a hammy. And they're like, I still got to go out there and I still got to go do my thing. It's like, well, hold on a second. Like, you know, if you have a slight injury and you're swapping exercises and you're lowering the intensity down quite a bit, I can buy some of that. You know, you have an Achilles thing and you're like, I'm going to swap out with a salt bike or something. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Doesn't mean you can't train at all, right? But man, if you're still trying to go out on a run and you got something that's really nagging you, that's really telling you over and over again, it's like you don't want to find out. You know, you don't want to find out what's on the other end of it. Luckily for me, I never had to have any surgeries, and I haven't had anything that has injured me for like a really, really long period of time. I've had kind of some shorter stuff, except for that injury that I had to my foot. And that injury that I had to my foot, that thing went on forever.
Yeah.
And that,
did you ever figure out what that was, or did it just go away?
My theory after a lot of stuff, I still have a tiny bit of it. It's still like in the heel. It's like a plantar fasciitis type of thing. Okay. And I dig through it on the show all the time. I'm always working on it. Yeah. I think it has to do with my spine. I think it has to do with like, as my spine starts to open up and as my body starts to relax better. Yeah. I think my whole system will move better. And I think it's like it's a weird thing to say, but I've come to the conclusion through like just many different diagnoses of trying to figure out exactly what the hell is going on. And I think that's one of the leading causes. The other one is sometimes I overreach when I start to sprint. And sometimes it's not like I'm slamming my heel on the ground. But yeah, my foot is in front of my body. Yeah. And then it's repeatedly over and over again. And you won't feel it a ton with just running. Mm-hmm. But as soon as I went to sprint is when it started to kind of act up.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. But what you were saying, actually what you were just saying right there and what you were saying prior, that the awareness piece is another big piece for you to not be that person that says, I used to be that guy. Because there are people in my mind right now that I do jujitsu with. One is actually not doing jujitsu right now because of the thing that he was complaining about. I told him, just, hey, don't come for a bit, just do something else. Boom, that injury turned into something bigger. But there's so often someone will get an injury, someone will get a tweak, and it speaks to them. This has happened to me in the past, years ago with jujitsu, where something happens, you're like, I could train through it, it's okay. You go, you train, you get through another session, and then there's a session that happens that takes you out for a few weeks or a few months, or that injury becomes something bigger because you just weren't listening to what your body was telling you to do, right? We get these signals because we're supposed to pay attention to them, not because we're supposed to work through them. And when it comes to training and fitness, there's just so much of the messaging of go through the pain. If you work harder. Not saying there's anything against hard work, but honestly, I think at that point, the work is literally stupid. Like you're being stupid because you're not listening to what your body is telling you. There's a signal that your body's sending you. For you, is your heel. For me, it's at times been my groin. The other day after jujitsu, I came back home and the next morning, like my hip was speaking to me. I was like, oh, this is weird, right? So I started doing some isometrics, right? And some tissue work. And after that, boom, it went away. But it's because I listened to what my body was telling me, and we have modalities, right? Another way for you to not to be the I used to be that guy person is have strategies, right? Have tools. Mm-hmm. We just talked to the episode that we did with Dr. Keith Barr just came out, where you guys will learn after this episode. I think you should go check that out. How beneficial isometric can be, not just for building tendon resilience and strength, but also for recovery after sessions of training or hypertrophy, right? We've done so many episodes on soft tissue work, right? Now you have a modality where you can take care of your own soft tissue, right? And you're not just sitting there and continuing to train when something in your elbow or something in your hip or something somewhere is speaking to you. You have something that lets you work on that, right? That awareness is extremely, extremely important.
An isometric is almost like a surgery.
Explain that.
Well, what Dr. Barr was saying, it was unbelievable. He was talking about how it helps synthesize the collagen, right?
Yeah.
And how it helps with like the connective tissue. I'm not saying it's going to take like tissue that's unconnected and torn and like literally put it back together. But man, it seems to have a crazy impact. You know, we know for years, we've talked about, and we had Ben Patrick here years ago, and we talked about pulling the sled backwards. And Ben had that statement of like, you know, pull the sled backwards so much that if you were to go run immediately afterwards, that you can't hurt yourself because you can't pick up any sort of speed because you got so much blood flow in there, right?
Yeah.
And that's related to this because that's all concentric activity. A lot of stuff in the gym is concentric. There's eccentric portions to stuff too, but the eccentric side gets kind of pushed off to the side. The isometrics aren't always done. There's some people that understand, like to do a little bit of them. They do a little bit of pausing here and there with exercises, but it's not really that popular. But one of the reasons why the backward sled walk works, and one of the reasons why it feels so good, is because of the amount of blood that it drives to the area. It drives blood flow all the way around all the muscles in the knee. But even more direct route than that is an isometric.
Yeah.
An isometric like bypasses all the activity and all the different things that you need to do. And it bypasses like just that wild fatigue that you might have from pulling the sled backwards. There's still going to be fatigue, but the fatigue's going to be like deep. It's like in the joint. You're like, it's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, when you're done, it's kind of uncomfortable. Whereas the sled pulling backwards, it's just like it's more like a quad pump. Then it doesn't necessarily feel it like in the joint quite as much. So I think that the isometric stuff is huge, and the isometrics, eccentrics, what you mentioned about mixing up your workouts.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully you enjoy that. Hopefully, you know, variety is the spice of life, hopefully for everybody. And hopefully you enjoy having some different things in there. But I think if you can just view stuff as, it's hard to illustrate to people because you and I have been doing this stuff for so long. People are really obsessive about like programming and their sets and their reps and everything. And then we're like, I don't know, you just kind of move. You know, somebody was telling me recently that there was some study that was done on like all these really high level athletes, and they found that like none of them could really explain very well what they could do, you know, and how they could do it. They could just do it. You know, it's hard for them to be descriptive of what it is that they did. And it's because you get like so keyed into something, like hypothetically speaking, of course, maybe LeBron James isn't the best basketball coach, although he could be.
Oh, that guy.
he could be.
Yeah.
But there could be like other athletes that maybe like, you know, aren't as athletic, that had to figure things out a slightly different way, that might know different angles or whatever the hell, right? Maybe he's a bad example because he's been in the NBA for like 30 years or something like that. It's pretty.
When you hear that guy talk about basketball, he's a bad example for that.
I know, and Jordan too, and Jordan and Brady, like some of these players, like they're unbelievable with some of their descriptions of how they did it. But if you want to kind of, you know, be someone that doesn't say I used to, I think if you can try to have some, maybe arrange for some unplanned stuff, unplanned training. Like, I don't know, I heard a lot about like med ball tosses. I'm just going to like go around and I'm just going to like mess around with it.
And be okay with that. Like,
yeah.
Because doing that for a minute and then walking away from it is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. What about, I don't know, take a 6 pound, just like order off of Amazon. You get 6 pound med ball and take it to the local football field.
Yeah.
And if they have a field goal post, you can chuck it over the field goal post a bunch of times. And then that's like your workout. But you're going to find that as soon as you start to mess around with shit like that, you're going to do way more than that. Oh, yeah. The odds of you just doing that is probably pretty low.
Yeah.
And I think it seems like I mean, I don't know, those workouts that you have in like your driveway and in your garage, it seems like you just have some major workout ADHD and you're just like pulling out all kinds of, you're like, do you stop and then just look at the sandbag? You're like, I should lift that one. And then you just go and, is it just by feel or you have like real specific thing you're thinking about?
I have intent for the things that I'm going to do, the amount, like if I want to bring tension to a specific area. But the thing is I have a lot of different ways to do that. If I want to get rotation of my shoulder and also a bit of load, I could swing a club. I could swing my 25-pound staff. I could swing my heavy rope, right? I could grab my 16-pound shot put and do rotations with that. I have a lot of ways to get the same desired outcome, right? So that's kind of like, that's why I think it's good to build a broad understanding and a broad movement practice, because you might tell yourself, okay, you know what, I want to get some squats in. Well, you can use a sandbag. That's not the heavy staff, but that's fine. You can use a sandbag. You can use, I have the belt squat that I could do that with, right? I could do some stuff with high rep body weight, right? I have a lot of options and I know how to reach my goals in a way that, not even in a way that, but like in multiple different ways versus if you want to just work your arms, well, you just go to the gym and you do some bicep curls. Well, I could do some things on my stall bars for my biceps. I could do the cable machine. I could do the mace and I could have it offloaded so I'm getting a little bit of leverage in there. I have a lot of answers to any type of thing I'm trying to do on the day.
Is this your other YouTube channel?
Yeah, it's my second YouTube channel.
Because you have two, right? Which one? What's this called?
This is called The Stronger Human. And actually, I'm explaining something in this video. There's this movement that, remember that barbell 360 thing that so people were wanting to know how to do that barbell 360. I was just showing people how to do that with like a broomstick and how to like do that movement. So that's what I'm explaining here. But that's the thing. It's like, I think that if you have different skills, it makes it easy to reach your goals because you can do multiple things to get to the same outcome. The other thing I did want to mention is when you were mentioning the isometrics from Keith Barr, it's funny because sometimes when, we were talking to Keith about this, but when a lot of people think about isometrics, they think of 5 seconds, 100%, or 3 seconds with as much force as possible. Well, Keith was talking about those 3LD isometrics, long duration, low intensity. So 50% of force output, right, for 30 seconds. Think about that. Think about how not difficult that is, but it can still bring such a great response from your tendons or your connective tissue that you're trying to work. And you're not even doing it at 100%. And you could do that literally right now as you're listening to this episode if you're not driving. Right? That has a positive effect. That has a positive effect on blood pressure. That has a positive effect on your tendons and connective tissue. It's huge, but it's not. It's still that green zone that we were talking about earlier in this episode. That's a practice that will allow you to be the person that doesn't say I used to be that guy, and it's allowing yourself not to have to, like, again, the mindset I used to have with soccer. If I'm not trying to be the best, I'm not going to do it. The mindset I used to have with lifting. If I'm not trying to be one of the strongest, I'm not going to do it. It's like, you don't need to have this all or nothing mindset when it comes to your ability to build your movement practice or progress. And that's going to allow you to actually progress. And then maybe at some point you end up being extremely good, but it's not because you trashed yourself trying to get there. It's because you had fun along the way.
I think that's like a key, is that you don't have to annihilate yourself to be really, really good.
You don't.
I guess, maybe for some people, like if they want to be great in a particular sport, we see that a lot from champions and gold medal winners. And we see that pretty often, right? From sometimes the cream of the crop. Sometimes they did have to sacrifice a lot, but not that position is not for everybody. And you can still, and I think most people from a recreational standpoint, I don't even know if that's what they even care about. I think it's fun to be able to it's fun to continue to improve, and then over time you recognize or other people recognize like, oh shit, like you're getting quite a bit ahead of most other people that are your age. It's kind of cool. You
Look
know,
at Adam Sandler playing basketball. That just came to mind.
Yeah.
But Adam's a fucking baller.
Oh my God. Yeah. He's awesome at basketball.
And he's old. And you see him crushing it with people, but like, he's fucking good.
Yeah, he's
he doesn't
very
look
good.
like he's killing himself though. With, he looks like he's just having fun.
Exactly. He's not
know?
like not out there like redlining the fuck out of it.
Yeah.
I give everybody a basketball update for me. I drained another 3 the other day, but I got stung by a wasp.
Oh, yikes.
I know.
Yikes. But you know,
I was on the rebound.
you know, I do think though that there's a skill in finding efficiency, because like, you know, to get good, a lot of times again we think that we got to be trying super hard, going super hard, but I think all of us have ran into people who, like, whether it's in jiu-jitsu, whether it's, well, I know so many of these guys when I used to play soccer, right? Where like it looks like they're just chilling. Everything's just like moving. They're smooth. They're not breathing super heavy. Doesn't even look like they're stressing. They're
What
just
about that other
fun.
dude though that you don't want to go against in practice? That's always going like crazy. You're like, dude, what?
No one wants to play with him.
You suck. Like when we have a game, you don't even barely even play.
And that's
Practice All-American, we used to call him, because like one of the guys in my high school, he would like he was a linebacker.
Yeah.
And he would sprint to like where he knew the play was. But I'm like, we're on the same team, so of course you know where the play is, you idiot. You're supposed to give us like a good look from like a regular defense that might be tricked by like some of this shit that we're doing. Instead, he would like run to the exact hole that we were trying to run through. I'm like, and he'd make every play, and you're like, dude, just chill out.
Yeah.
Practice All-American.
Yeah. I think you've mentioned this before. Do things with the intent of like being able to do it again tomorrow or maybe the next day. Like, think about your future self in your current session. And I think if you think about your future self while you're training right now, you'll make different decisions. My homies that had effed up groin probably wouldn't come to train the next day or the day after that or the day after that, because they would have learned to address it, and they wouldn't be in the situation they're in now, right? Because they were thinking about their future self right now. And if you do that with the way you train, shit, you're not going to be the person who says, I used to be that guy.
I did want to mention something too. I think something that's maybe missed is that Cam Haynes and David Goggins and some of these people that we see, you know, going through this really hard thing or hard time, these guys have tremendous skill set. Yeah. These guys are like, they're some of the best in the world at what they do.
Yeah.
And then we're watching them, you know, kind of pour it on after they already became, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like they're not some mid-level person who's redlining and then never getting there. Mm-mm. They're already there. And they're like,
put the pedal to it. Yeah.
I want to be the GOAT. Like, I want to leave it, like, no doubt that I want people to understand that I'm completely out of my mind. And I'm going to show them by, you know, finishing this race with 2 shitty knees or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And also I think, you know, for David Goggins, he said many times it's like a mental thing for him. He just happens to, whether it's good for him or not, I think that he would even agree it's probably not good for him, but he likes doing it.
Yeah.
So he made a conscious decision as like one of the best in the world to like really floor it in this particular situation.
Yeah. You know, that's a complicated thing too, because it's like, again, we're not saying don't work hard, but like be smart about the work you're doing so you don't put yourself in a situation where you can't do the thing you love to do because of a dumb decision, right? And if you do that, again, Cam and David have been doing this stuff for decades. You got to be able to do whatever this is for decades if you want to become really good. Even if you're 30 or 40. Imagine this. If you're 30 or 40, let's say you're 40 right now, and you managed to do jiu-jitsu for 20 years, you're going to be pretty damn good at 60. You'll be really fucking good at 60, actually. If you do it in an intelligent way, have an awareness of taking care of your body, and actually do things with the intent of staying in the game. I know a lot of people who are like again, they're with jiu-jitsu. Oh yeah, I used to do that when I was in my 20s or whatever. It's like, why aren't you doing it anymore? Decisions. And I know sometimes it could be a stupid sparring partner who did something dumb, right? But a lot of times it's like if you make better decisions with kind of how you're handling this, you'll do this for a long time.
It's interesting because I feel like we know these things. You know, I think we intuitively know that. I mean, even with learning something, anybody who's ever been to a seminar or anybody who's ever been in a class that's difficult, and you start learning, you learn some stuff, and you're like getting these inputs, and you're like, okay, hold on, I caught on to that, okay, and then you kind of go over the next thing, and you're like, oh, that's a little bit. Oh, wait, what'd they do there? Oh, wait a second, I think I'm falling behind, right? And then you get like fatigued, and you get like frustration, right? Yeah. You get all this stuff going on, right? And there's only so much you can learn, or only so much you can take in a given day. And I mentioned this before. You go to trade shows or seminars or something like that. Go to a seminar, and you see everybody. You know, they pop out of there an hour and a half in, 90 minutes in. Everyone's pumped to be there. Yeah. Everybody wanted to hear these speakers, and now on a second speaker, and they've really been going for a while. And you see people like duck out and they're like, whew. And everyone's just like they need to plug their batteries back in. They need to like recharge. So they sit there and they have a coffee. Mm-hmm. They sit there and they chit chat with everybody, and then maybe they go back in. But there's only so much input you can handle in a given day. Yeah. And whether it's learning, I mean, what we're doing is learning. You know, if you teach me a particular movement pattern, it's learning, right?
Yes.
And it's going to fatigue me. It's going to, right? I can only like learn so much in a given day. You can only train so much in a given day. I think sprints and explosive activity are probably some of the greatest things that you can explore and do. But how much of it can you do? You can't always just do that. So then we need to like have other stuff in between. And all the other stuff in between is fun as well. But it's just not that same crazy intensity. So you can only do so much in a given day anyway. And I think thinking about that, thinking about what you were mentioning about, think about yourself next week, think about yourself 6 months from now. I always think too, it's a good idea to think of, maybe this is too much, but like, maybe this is too conservative, but think about if you were like training your mom or someone you really care about, and apply that to yourself. Yeah. You know, I wouldn't push mom this hard. I wouldn't push my uncle this hard. Well, obviously like they're in a different condition or whatever than you, but I think have that same kind of care for yourself. Like I think what our exercise has become some sort of therapy and some sort of abuse session for us dealing with our past in some weird way. And, just be careful. You know, if you're diving down those kind of dark tunnels, just be careful how often you do it. And if you have injuries and stuff, do your best to pull back, have some skills and have some things that you can lean on, some myofascial release, maybe going to a practitioner if you need that. There's so many different things you can do. Isometrics, eccentrics, a list goes on and on of different things you can try and do to keep yourself healthy. The last thing I'll say on this is like, treat yourself like a professional. Why not? You know, okay, maybe we don't have the money that, somebody making $25 million a year shooting some hoops, but you don't necessarily need that amount of money to be able to have some tools and be able to have, to have a tennis ball and a lacrosse ball to roll around on. It's not crazy expensive.
To sleep on time.
Yeah, just treat yourself a little bit like a pro, because the stuff is fun. And if you want to be able to do it for a long time, you have to figure out ways of staying ahead. And I know for myself, one way that I've been able to be someone that can still do stuff. Now, I can't still bench 500 pounds. I benched 500 pounds for probably about a decade. And I remember saying like, oh, I'd love to be able to do that for like a really long time. But it wasn't something that I could even come close to holding on to. I only did 315 the other day for a double. And that was, took everything I had. It was kind of funny actually, but, you're going to probably lose some attributes here and there, but like I can still do the movement. I could still enjoy the movement. I could still do it. So maybe the intensity goes down a little bit. We see that with high level athletes that sprint, and they sprint a little slower when they're older, but they can still sprint. They can still put in 100%. And so these are all things that I think it's worthwhile for us to think about. How can we do that? And the way that we're going to be able to do that is to treat ourselves like a pro. And the way a pro handles themselves as a pro knows what's coming next. What you're doing in your next workout? What are you doing next week? I think about like what I'm going to do on Friday, or I think about what I'm going to do on Saturday very, very often. And it starts to kick around in my head on like Monday or Tuesday. Maybe not everybody's that much of a meathead or that excited about it, but that's where I'm at. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.